Hi, this is Neal Walters. When I was about 2 to 5 years old, I lived in an oil field camp in North Dakota. Actually, two small towns. One was Charleston, which I can't even find on a map today, and the other one was Tioga. Now, Tioga is a few miles, maybe 40, 45 miles from Williston, North Dakota, and this basin is called the Williston Basin. It was a big discovery made in North Dakota, I think in the 50s. There's actually a monument you'll see later in the video recording this discovery. And my dad went up there in the 50s, and he spent 17 years there in the cold. And I was born in 61, and I lived in this oil field camp. And later I'll try to find some pictures of houses that we lived in, that kind of thing. All my pictures are in storage right now. But I wanted to interview my dad, Ralph Walters. He worked for Amerada Company or Amerada Corporation. Amerada stands for America and Canada. And then later it merged with the Hess Oil Company and became Amerada Hess. That's what it's known as today. It's not like one of the major 7 oil companies, but it's probably one of the top 15 or so. And it used to be a Fortune 50 company. I actually worked for them for 10 years in Tulsa, Oklahoma myself. My dad worked for them for 38 years and retired with them. Before we go to my dad, I want to show you a quick map here. This is Williston, North Dakota. And this is also a map of the Williston Basin. You can see it goes from North Dakota to Montana to Canada as well. And then we'll zoom in here and show you Tioga. And Charleston, the only thing he mentions is it's close to a town called Newtown. And so this will give you the context of what he's talking about, these two towns. So now we're going to go to my dad, Ralph Walters. He's about 86 or 87 years old now, and I wanted to get his thoughts and get this down on YouTube so people could remember it. I think it's a little bit of history that a lot of people don't know anything about. And today there's a resurgence of people moving to North Dakota to work in similar situations, and there's not enough housing. So we see kind of what they do with the housing today versus what was done back in the 50s and 60s. Enjoy this interview with my father. He lived in the Tioga oil field camps, and tell me again roughly what year you lived there.
1956 to 1962.
Okay, and when were they actually built?
In 1953.
Okay, so why did they build them, and who built them?
The company had their own employees, and they built them.
What company?
Amerada Hess Corporation.
Okay, it was Amerada back then, right?
Amerada, right.
And I was asking you yesterday, why did they take them down?
They sold.
They sold the houses.
They sold the houses.
But that was because of the new management.
New management, Mr. Hess.
What, did he not want to keep it running?
Yes.
Why not?
Well, there was so many people out there that they had to keep them transferred all the time, going to school, so they sold it off.
Okay, so how many houses were there, and how were they arranged?
There's arranged in an L shape. There was 10 houses out there and 6 trailer houses.
Just 10 houses? I thought you said 20 the other day.
No, that's up at...
Oh, I'm talking about Tioga actually right now.
You're talking about what?
I was talking about Tioga. Were you talking about Charleston?
Yeah.
Okay, so there were 10 houses in Charleston.
Charleston, right.
Okay, how many were in Tioga?
No, there's 20 or 25, I don't know exactly, because they were still building some when we left.
Okay.
And then they had a camp out there with, I think, 12 trailers.
In Tioga.
Tioga.
So why didn't they give everybody a house?
Well, these were employees that wanted to live. They would live far enough away that they asked if they couldn't have a place to park their trailer.
Oh, so they already own their own trailers.
Yes.
Okay. And so then what kind of people lived there? What kind of jobs did they do?
They were more or less field clerks, and some were pumpers.
What does a field clerk do?
Field clerk works in the office and keeps track of all the production from the wells.
Okay. And then what was your job at that time?
I was farm boss at that time.
What is,
taking care of 3 rigs. And we never did have a day off till vacation time.
I started to say, is that an 8 to 5 job?
No, I'm afraid not. I think it's a 24-hour job because we never did, holidays didn't mean nothing. The only time you really got there is somebody got sick to leave. Because we was always busy,
So did you run shifts at night?
all night long.
So
We
did
never had
did the guys take turns? Like who had to work at night?
No, we had a officer, had a person to be at the office in cases. There was 3 of us that roamed the field, took care of the field, and we needed an emergency, we would call in and he would use a telephone. We didn't have telephones, we had 2-way radios at the time, and he would call who we needed out.
But I'm saying, like, some guys, did they complain about having to work at night, or did you rotate so different people work at
We
night?
didn't rotate. We may go out to a rig and stay there 3 or 4 days, not even come home. It
Okay.
would be maybe 10 to 15 miles from home.
So you had like a little bedroom or a hut on the rig?
Yeah, we sure did.
What was that like?
That, we had everything for cooking, beds, and
Who made the
warm
food?
and everything.
Who made the food?
Usually the tool pusher. He usually done all the food making and everything.
And did you go into town to buy the food and he bought it, or?
Yes, sure did. He would do all the buying for the food and everything for us.
Did everybody eat at the same time, or did you have to eat in shifts?
No, a lot of times that we had to eat in shifts, it's according to how the rig was running.
How much oil did these pull in a day?
Anything from 250 to 500 barrels a day
Per well? Per well?
per well.
And these were drilling or production? Exploration or production?
That's after we drilled the well and got it on production.
Is that when you put the Christmas tree on them?
That's when you put the Christmas tree, yes.
Okay. And then they keep you busy after that, or you move on and drill another one?
We'd skid the rig, we'd jack it up, had lights on it, and we would move the rig at night. We had rollers and everything on it, had great big lights on, had all the equipment so that you could see the rig moving at night.
Why did you
All
move?
hours during the night.
Why didn't you move it during the day?
We could move it just according to when we finished the well. If we finished the well in the daytime, we moved it daytime. If we finished it at 8 o'clock at night, we started jacking it all up and started pulling it away to the next location.
Okay. Who decided where the next location would be?
We built those locations ahead of time, so we knew where we was going. We may have high as 10 or 15 locations already to move on, because in the wintertime, the frost was so deep in the ground, it was frozen, it was hard to dig in the ground, so we'd dig them and get them all ready in the summertime.
Okay. And that, what does it getting it ready entail? What does that you have to do to get a site ready?
Well, we had to get it all level, had to dig a pit, what we call a waste pit, had to get it, and then we had what we call a cellar. That's where a lot of the stuff, like blow-up venters and all that, was kept in the cellar. And we made the cellar and drilled what we call a mouse hole. And that would be already be started. And all we had to do is move the rig right over the cellar where we had dug out, and set it down and start drilling. And maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning we'd start drilling.
Wow. And so who made the decision though? Was that Tulsa or the engineers or people in Williston?
That
Or?
was just made, well, I guess made in Tulsa. Started there back in our first well was in 51. And
So was Amerada up?
we just never did stop.
Was Amerada one of the first ones there after the discovery of this?
After the stuff, there was a discover well, and they never did take care of it because the winters were so severe up there that everything would freeze all up, and then they got so they had equipment so they could use it in the winter time.
So who did discover the basin? What company? You know?
Well, there was another company before Amerada. I don't remember who it was now at the time.
And then who went in and leased up all these leases?
One of our company employees. Then another thing too, that we had, you might as well say half, eastern half of North Dakota was leased up with the company. Yeah, well, excuse me, in the west.
Okay, well, tell me about family life there. What, with all these families living in these 20 houses, what was that like?
Yes, they built a party house out there that were more or less that kids could go out there and play, or they usually have, maybe once a week they'd have a luncheon. Or if you're working, you stayed on the job, but otherwise you wasn't with you. Your wife or your family would go on to the party house and have a party with the rest of them.
Actually, they had an annual barbecue, didn't they?
Yeah, they had, in the summertime, they had an annual barbecue, and they would have a fish fry, shrimp fish fry, that they would fly up from Louisiana up there, and then we'd invite the whole town of Tioga to come out there, and we had lots and lots of people.
Did the Tioga people appreciate Amerada being
Yes,
there,
they
or did
did,
they
yeah.
not like him being there?
They really appreciated it. They was glad because they got so that they could have gas, and there was a lot of industrial there started up from that. We'd bring all the pipe in the yard that we buy from the mills, because the roads are so bad up there in the wintertime for snow and everything that we had to have a place we wouldn't have to be shoveling snow with snowplow.
So tell me, also back to, there were a lot of kids there, or not?
Yes, there was a family who had, and then the company had their own school bus that transferred the kids to. The town closest to that was Newtown. I built this sandbox. We would, every once in a while, we would frack a well. We used sand to frack a well with. And so I brought some home, and it was the kind of sand that you could just brush off. It wouldn't stick to you, and it was clean white.
So fracking is not a new thing. They did that way back then.
Yes.
You have to frack it to get the oil out.
Yes, it sure did. But now they're larger jobs, larger frack jobs.
Okay, so now tell me about the winters.
Well, the winter was real bad up there. The worst winter I can remember up there, that we had our own snow plow and our equipment and everything, and they would plow the roads out to us so we could get to the well. And this winter was so bad that the cattle, we had some cattle that would go up to the fence line, and the wind was so strong and everything that they would freeze standing up. Then we had another place where the sheep would get inside of a hill that way, and the blizzard would come and cover them all up with snow, and they couldn't breathe and they'd die.
Well, what about you guys working out in the cold?
Well, we had, like I said, we had a radio in our car where we could call into our office, which somebody was there 24 hours a day, and if we needed anything, they would get it to us.
But I mean, you guys got cold out there, right? What did you do
Yes.
to, did you
Well,
get frostbite before?
We just bundled all up for it, sure did.
Did the guys get frostbitten sometimes?
Yes, but they dressed up good enough that they didn't. The only thing that I can remember it, we had a fellow work for Halliburton that we called him Catfish. And the reason why we called him Catfish, his beard turned out and went up, made curls on the end of it. Well, when you're out there cementing a well, that's you're breathing, and the more moisture from that would go down and get into your whiskers like that, and then the cement dust from the cement, they'd freeze.
Yeah.
They'd freeze like that. And we had one of the boys that was so proud of his and everything, it got so much on there, ice and everything, it broke off. So he had him, we call him one Catfish.
Okay. So do you have trouble, like, you have to wear big thick gloves, and when you were using the equipment, would the gloves get in the way?
Well, we had gloves, but we didn't have it that way. We had a fellow from Louisiana, I can remember him yet. His name was Muckarat, and he invented a heater that they used out on the rig after they boxed it all in and everything, and you could work up on the floor there with lighter clothes on. You didn't have to be all dressed up and everything. In the derrick, in these cold, we had a frame around it up there so he could keep cool or warm, and in the meantime that we had a steam line going up to him where he could keep him warm as he could, but he wasn't very warm.
And you had to stay up where, on top?
He had to stay up, like when he was pulling the pipe all out of the hole, he stayed up there, and then they had to get back up there again when we started back in the hole to latch on the pipe, put the pipe back in the well.
How long did it take to drill each well?
At that time, we was drilling one every 26 days,
And how deep?
9,000 feet.
Is that very deep?
Well, that's there's 5,000 feet in a mile, so that's better than almost going almost 2 miles.
But is that normal compared to back then, or compared to today?
That's for different areas. It all depends. I have drilled the deepest one in North Dakota, which went to 15,000 feet. That's 3 miles.
And also Ohio you did, right?
And I drilled one in Ohio, deepest one in Ohio, and that was 11,000.
So how do you think it compares to those guys up there today in 2013, 14, 15?
They got lots more modern stuff up there now, and they had places for them to we had still worked what we call an 8-hour shift up there at the time, and now I understand they're working 12 hours on and 12 hours off.
And you were talking about having a car phone back then.
Yeah, that was.
What year did you get that? You know?
Let me see. We got that in 57.
And it worked just as good as a normal phone?
Was it what?
Was it as good as a normal phone?
Oh yes, yes, sure was. And then, like I said, we had a two-way radio that would reach out.
So what did you need both?
One for the office, and if the air was just right up there, I could talk to people in California that worked for the company in California and talked to the people in Louisiana, but the weather had to be just right to do that.
Okay. Any other thing you want to tell us about from North Dakota?
No, we spent 17 years up there. We went out and we was back up there 3 years, came back up there for another 3 years, but I had a total 17 years up there.
Okay, well, thank you for the interview.
I think I have another bit of footage on my dad that may be in a future video, but one thing I want to close this video with, if you're a hardworking person like my dad, consider what's available on the internet. There are options that I'm working with right now of doing videos and blogs and things like making this video, and there are ways you can make money on the internet, and it is serious. There are people like me doing it. I'm just, like I said, I'm a kid from North Dakota, and it's possible to actually do well on the internet. I meet people at conferences that are doing well all the time. And so I'm going to give you a URL or an address here if you want to find out more about what I'm doing, or you just want to contact me for further information. You can subscribe to my channel for other videos, check out what else I've done, and also go to this website and I can send you more information specific to that business. I look forward to seeing you soon. This is Neal Walters.